Welcome to our flipped classroom for Chapter 22, the Lymphatic System and Immunity. Now, before we get started, I want to kind of introduce the idea of immunity and the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is one of those body systems that people generally don't know a whole lot about. They've heard about the respiratory, the digestive, but lymphatic system is oftentimes glossed over. So as you can see here, you're showing pathogens versus the lymphatic system. So when I say something that's a pathogen, it's generally some sort of microorganism that can cause disease, things like viruses, bacteria, fungi, and parasites. Though technically, viruses aren't organisms because they're not considered to be living, but that's a different story. What we're looking at is trying to build immunity. Immunity is our body's ability to resist infection and disease. And we do that with the lymphatic system, working in conjunction with the immune system. Now, the immune system to me is somewhat of a misnomer because the immune system is not just one simple set of organs that are working together. Your immune system is all your body cells and tissues that are involved in immunity. So that means, yes, it's part of your lymphatic system, but it's also your integumentary, your skeletal, your cardiovascular. Basically, all your other systems have components that are going to help you with your immunity, which is that ability to resist an infection and disease. Your lymphatic system with immunity allows you to have what we refer to as an immune response. So your immune response is your body's reaction to infectious agents, any of those pathogens, and abnormal substances that are in your body. So it's your whole body's reaction to it. The whole idea is we are trying to build resistance. Resistance is the ability of your body to maintain immunity, which is that ability to resist and defend against infections and disease. So before we start talking about the lymphatic system specifically, what I want to do is I kind of want to compare our lymphatic system with our circulatory system and show how they are going to be interrelated. So we already talked about the circulatory or cardiovascular system. So our cardiovascular system was going to be your heart, plus your blood vessels, plus all your blood all working together to deliver and transport nutrients and waste throughout your body. When we're talking about the lymphatic system, the fluid we're talking about is not blood. The fluid is referred to as lymph. But lymph and blood are going to be very related to each other because lymph is created from blood. So if we look at this diagram over here on the right, so this is the interrelationship between the systems. Here's our heart. Our heart is going to be pumping out blood through our arteries. It's oxygen rich, shown here for our systemic circuit. When we get to our capillaries, these are our exchange vessels. The force of the blood is going to drive capillary exchange. So as the blood is being pushed through the capillary, you're going to have the fluid portion of your blood, the plasma, getting pushed out through the pores in the capillary itself. Then that's going to create what we refer to as interstitial fluid. All your cells in your body are bathed in fluid. It's that interstitial fluid. So your tissues, which are made up of your cells, are bathed in fluid. Your organs, which are made up of different types of tissues, are all containing fluid inside of them. So we have all this fluid that's going to be around all the cells. We also have fluid within the cells. So the fluid within the cells we refer to as cytosol or intracellular fluid, ICF. The fluid that's outside of the cells we refer to as extracellular fluid, and in this case we're talking about interstitial fluid. So that interstitial fluid is going to be on the outside of the cells. When we're doing capillary exchange, the capillaries are going to be growing through tissues. So those capillaries, as they're growing through the tissues, when you're doing capillary exchange and you're forcing the fluid out of the blood, that's the plasma going out to the cells around it. Now that fluid is referred to as interstitial fluid. Most of that fluid gets reabsorbed right back into the capillary through reabsorption. Then it becomes part of the plasma again, and it's still continuing as it goes through the veins to your heart. 10% of the fluid that gets pushed out, though, during that filtration process gets absorbed by the lymphatic system instead. So that fluid goes into these lymph vessels. Those lymphatic vessels now contain lymph. So lymph is the same thing as interstitial fluid, which was the same thing as the plasma within the blood. They're just located in different places. The composition is going to be slightly different, though, because within the blood, that plasma is going to have a lot of plasma proteins. Those are too large to actually exit the capillary. Your cellular components, like your platelets, your white blood cells, and your red blood cells, all those in the plasma proteins are too large. They always remain in your blood. But anything else that's small enough is going to be pushed out with the plasma. So your interstitial fluid is essentially kind of the same thing as your plasma, except it doesn't have those plasma proteins. That fluid is going to move all across the cells that are surrounding that tissue area. 10% of that fluid is going to be put into our lymphatic vessel. So as that fluid is bathing the cells, it's picking up trash, it's picking up waste, it's picking up pathogens, and then hopping into the lymphatic vessels. So our lymph is going to be like the interstitial fluid, except it's picked up all the debris and pathogens from it, and it gets moved into the vessels, and that's what our lymph is going to be. Notice for our lymphatic system, you have all these little green dots in here. These are lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are going to be all over the length of your body. The lymph nodes are filter stations. Inside the lymph nodes, you will have white blood cells. So as that lymph comes into the lymph node, the white blood cells in there are going to break down any pathogens, any pieces of things that don't belong there, and then the lymph is going to continue to the next area. And then it goes to another lymph node, which is going to do the same thing. It's going to scan, and it's going to filter, and it's going to clean up. All of that lymph keeps going through these series of lymph nodes and lymphatic vessels until eventually we have really clean lymph that we dump back into our veins, and that becomes part of our plasma again, and then we pump it all out. So the lymphatic system and the circulatory system are very related. In fact, when you look at the distribution of the vessels, it's going to be very similar in the circulatory system as the lymphatic system, because where you're going to have blood vessels, you're going to have lymphatic vessels as well. The lymphatic vessels are going to be within all your peripheral tissues because we're cleaning up fluid that's coming from all different parts of your body. So let's specifically lay out the different components that are part of our lymphatic system. So we already talked about lymph. Lymph is going to be that fluid that came from our peripheral tissues that gets absorbed into our lymphatic vessels. Very similar to interstitial fluid, very similar to plasma. Does not have plasma proteins in it though, picking up junk from the cells. Lymph is going to be carried within the lymphatic vessels. So the lymphatic vessels, there are different sizes, just like you have different types of blood vessels. There are different sizes of lymphatic vessels that are going to be taking fluid from the peripheral tissues to move them towards eventually the heart so we can return all that to the blood. Lymphoid tissues are going to be connective tissues that are going to be dominated by lymphocytes, which is our main type of lymphoid cell. So lymphoid cells are going to be lymphocytes for the most part, but also other phagocytic white blood cells. When we talk about lymphoid organs, these are going to be organs where lymphocytes are going to form, where they mature, and then where they become active. So this diagram here is going to show you the lymphoid tissues and organs that we have that are listed on this right side, and then we have major lymphatic vessels, which are going to be over here. You will eventually need to be able to label all of these, but we're going to talk about each of them so you know what's going on for each. So let's look specifically at lymph collecting vessels. So there are different types that you're going to need to know, and you can see the ones in yellow are the ones you're going to have to specifically be able to label for the test. But we will have superficial and we will have deep lymphatics. So superficial lymphatics are vessels that are in your subcutaneous layer, like your areolar tissues and your mucous membranes and serous membranes. So they're on the outside of the organ superficially. But then you'll have larger deep lymphatics. Deep lymphatics are going to be the ones like you're seeing right in here. The deep lymphatics generally are going to accompany arteries and veins. The superficial and deep lymphatics are going to converge to form large lymphatic trunks. And we have two major lymphatic trunks that we're talking about, and they're shown right in here. So we have the thoracic duct and we will have the right lymphatic duct. Those two ducts will collectively take all of the lymph from all the different peripheral tissues, and then they're going to take it in and then eventually dump that lymph that should now be clean into our veins to go back into our blood supply. As you can see in this diagram right here, this is showing the drainage that you have. So the lymph is going to be created in the tissues on the outside, and they're going to be slowly drawing in to a point to get closer to your heart. When you're looking at your right lymphatic duct, it's going to collect all the lymph that came from the right side of your head, through your right arm, the right side of your chest, and then it's going to dump that into the right subclavian vein. So we can see the right subclavian vein here. There's the right lymphatic duct right next to it, and you can see where they are joining with each other. So the right lymphatic duct is going to take the lymph we just talked about from those areas, dump it into the right subclavian vein. That right subclavian vein, you can see, is going to drain into the brachiocephalic vein. That brachiocephalic vein is going to drain into the superior vena cava. And of course, we know the superior vena cava is going to empty into our right atrium. All other lymph in your body, though, is going into the thoracic duct, other than those areas on the right side we just mentioned. The The thoracic duct is going to be that large trunk. So here's that large trunk, and it's going to join with our left subclavian vein. So our left subclavian vein is now going to receive that clean lymph. We're going to call it plasma now. Of course, the left subclavian vein is going to drain into the brachiocephalic vein, which is going to drain into our superior vena cava. Now, the thoracic duct that we're showing up here where it's connecting in here doesn't look like it's all that big, but notice it is going down the whole length of the torso. So there's this long green thing that's going to be going up. So it's collecting all the lymph from all the sides down in here, moving it upward, upward, until eventually it gets to here. So not shown along the way are all those different lymph nodes that we have. So all those lymph nodes are going to be taking that lymph and cleaning it all along the way. The cisterna chyli is going to be an expanded chamber at the base of your thoracic duct, and it took all the lymph that came from the bottom of your abdomen, the pelvis, and your lower limbs, and then it continues upward through the thoracic duct. Now, our smallest lymphatic vessels are going to be lymphatic capillaries, and this is going to be the point at which you're going to first form that lymph. It's coming from that filtration during capillary exchange, and then 10% of it is going to be coming into the lymphatic capillaries. Now, if you look at a cross-section of any tissue, generally you're going to find an artery, a vein, and then a lymphatic vessel that's going to be right next to it. So we're going to see them anywhere we're going to find these little capillary beds, because the capillary beds are, of course, where you're creating your interstitial fluid, and from that interstitial fluid, you are creating the lymph. So these arrows are going to be showing the flow of that fluid. So we had plasma going through the capillaries, and then that plasma is getting pushed out to your interstitial fluid, and then your interstitial fluid is going to be moving into the lymphatic capillaries. Lymphatic capillaries are not going to run continuous. They actually have a dead end. So when we talked about blood vessels, the blood vessels were all connected to each other. There was no dead end with your blood vessels. Lymphatic capillaries, though, they are the dead end. And when the interstitial fluid is going to be pushed out into it, the lymphatic capillaries will have valves. So they will have endothelial cells that overlap, and so that when the fluid comes into the lymphatic capillary, it cannot push back out. So it comes back in through those flaps, and then it's going to be moving upward, and it can't move backwards from it. It has to keep moving forward because the valves do not allow it to go backward. And so the capillaries are going to branch, and they're going to flow to larger lymphatic vessels that we just talked about with those deep and superficial vessels that go to the trunks. So I had mentioned the deep and the superficial lymphatics. We have other specialized lymphatic vessels. Meningeal lymphatics are going to be a specialized one that were actually just discovered in 2015 by researchers in both University of Virginia and University of Helsinki, kind of at the same time, but completely separate from each other. So they were both doing research, and they both discovered these meningeal lymphatics. Now, you're not going to have to know a whole lot of details with this, but you basically need to know that meningeal lymphatics are going to be the lymph drainage system of your brain. Remember, you will have your dura mater, your arachnoid mater, and your pia mater. So these are lymphatics associated with those meninges. So the meningeal lymphatics run down towards the base of the skull. It's going to be draining the lymph from the cerebral spinal fluid. So if you look really closely here, we have our cerebral spinal fluid in our subarachnoid space, and as that cerebral spinal fluid is going out through it, you will notice that some of that cerebral spinal fluid is going to be moved into our meningeal lymphatics. And then from our meningeal lymphatics, we're going to continue draining that downward, and eventually go and drain down to the base of the foramina of the skull to go to our cervical lymphatic system, which is we're going to have a number of cervical lymph nodes in there. So this is a specialized lymphatic vessel area that's going to be housed within the meninges of our brain that allows us to drain the fluid from our CSF and make some of that lymph and go through our lymphatic system. Your digestive system is also going to have specific lymphatic vessels, and those are referred to as lacteals. So within your digestive system, within your small intestine, you will have these villi, which are going to be these long finger-like projections. And the very center of them are going to be a lacteal, which is that small lymphatic vessel, usually surrounded by some sort of capillary bed. And that lymphatic vessel is then going to be connected to larger lymphatic vessels, which will then take us through the different lymph nodes in the system. The lacteals are also going to be transporting lipids that are picked up during the digestive process, and they're going to take that fluid to the abdominal lymph nodes and then eventually to the thoracic duct.